Solving two-step equations. How do you solve a two-step equation? So let's do a quick review here. We have to remember that when we're solving an equation, we're kind of got to remember that an equal sign represents like a scale. We need to keep it balanced. And in order to keep it balanced, we follow the golden rule, which is what you want to do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other side to keep it balanced. This is known as the property of equality. We must keep the sides balanced. That way we are able to treat it equally. Now our goal when we solve equations is basically to get the variable alone, find out what the variable equals. In other words, our goal is to solve the equation to find out what number will make that equation true. Now, how we're going to accomplish that is through using inverse operations. And when we say inverse, we obviously mean opposite. In operations, we refer to adding and subtracting our opposites or inverses of each other, as well as multiplying as the inverse of dividing. Okay, now let's talk about some overall steps that we can take a look at. So our first step, because it's a two-step equation, is we're going to use inverse operations with the term that has no variable in it. In other words, we're going to deal with the constant. And we're always going to look on the same side of the equation where the variable is. So our first step is going to be looking on the side where there is a variable, and we are going to put the take a look at the constant, and then depending on what's going on, we're going to add or subtract. Now, the second step we're going to do is going to deal with the coefficient of the term with the variable. This time, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply or divide. That will help us to eliminate that coefficient, and then we'll have the variable by itself. So let's take a look at this problem following those steps. If we follow those steps, we know we'll deal with the side with the variable, which is the left side. We'll deal with the constant first, which is this plus 1. Well, the inverse of plus 1 is to subtract 1. Once we do that, these 1's will go away because they're opposite each other. Plus 1 and minus 1 is 0, ending up with 2x. 5 minus 1 is 4. Now we deal with the coefficient with the variable, which is 2. Since this is multiplied times 2, the inverse is dividing by 2. And what we do to one side, we do to the other. This causes us to create a big giant 1 here. So we have 1 times x, and 1 times x is just x, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now we know we have to check all the time. We can't just sit and decide that we're going to say that this is the right answer. We have to check our solution. So we'll do that. We'll rewrite exactly what we see. 2, instead of x though, I'm going to put in another 2, plus 1 equals 5. Now, we'll follow order of operations on the left side to make it look exactly like the right side. If it does, then we have the right answer. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. So now that both sides are identical, we know that we have the correct answer. We'll do a few more problems. Here we go. 12x minus 24 equals 0. Again, we're going to be working on the left-hand side because that is where the variable is. Here we have the constant, which says that we are subtracting 24, so we're going to add 24 to both sides. What that does is creates this to go to 0 because minus 24 plus 24 is 0, leaving us with just 12x on the left side, and 0 plus 24 is 24. We're going to divide both sides by 12. And here now, we get a big giant 1 because 12 divided by 12 is 1. 1 times x is x. 24 divided by 12 is 2. We're going to check our solution by rewriting the original equation, but instead of the variable, we're going to put in our answer, which is 2. And we're going to see if we are correct. We'll follow order of operations. 12 times 2 is 24. 24 minus 24 is 0, so it checks out. So this indeed is our answer to this equation. Let's try it again. This time it looks a little bit different. We have r divided by 3 plus 7 equals negative 4. Again, though, we deal with the side with the variable, which is the left side here. And this plus 7 means that we're going to subtract 7 from both sides because that is the inverse of that. What that does is that eliminates this because positive 7 and negative 7 will give us 0. That will give us r divided by 3 equals a negative 4 and a negative 7 give us negative 11. We're then going to do the opposite dividing by 3, which is multiplying by 3. So we'll do that to both sides. That will help us out here. in creating a big giant 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 1 times r is just r. Negative 11 times 3 is negative 33. We're going to check our solution. Negative 33 divided by 3 plus 7 equals negative 4. We're going to follow order of operations. Negative 33 divided by 3 is negative 11. Negative 11 plus 7 is negative 4. So it checks out. So that means that our answer is negative 33. I have a couple more for us to look at. Again, at Division 1, lots of negatives. Seem to throw people off with negatives, but it shouldn't. Again, we just follow the steps. We look at the left side because that's where the variable is, and here it's q. We deal with the constant, which is minus 22, so we're going to add 22, which is the inverse operation. What that does is that creates that to go to 0, minus 22 plus 22. We have to remember that this is minus q divided by 5. We want to make sure that we bring that negative sign or that minus sign with us. Positive 22 minus 15 is positive 7. Now what we're going to do is we're going to multiply both sides by negative 5. And negative because we want to make sure that a negative times a negative will give us a positive. So we want to make sure that it's negative in that respect. And remember, this is over 1, so this gives us that big giant 1. So 1 times q is just good old q. When 7 times negative 5 is negative 35. We're going to check our solution. Negative 22 minus, and in the q spot, we're going to put negative 35 divided by 5 equals negative 15. A lot of negatives, but we're just going to take it one step at a time to resolve it using order of operations. First of all, let's get rid of this 2 negative signs. We know that a negative times a negative is a positive. So let's change that. Negative 22 plus 35 divided by 5 equals negative 15. Now let's simplify 35 divided by 5, which we know to be 7. And negative 22 plus 7 is negative 15. So both sides are the same. So we know that q equals negative 35. I have one more, just to make sure everybody's with us. Again, 4d minus 57 equals 7. Deal with the side with the variable, which is the left side, which is d. Minus 57, the inverse operation of subtracting 57 is adding 57. So let's add 57 to both sides. That creates a 0 here because negative 57 plus 57 is 0. We'll take 4d equals 57 plus 7 is 64. Divide both sides by 4, because that's the inverse operation of multiplying by 4. That will give us our big giant 1 here, because 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 1 times d is just d. 64 divided by 4 is 16. Now, if you have to do some work on the side, and that's fine, because you didn't know what 64 divided by 4 is, just do it on the side here, so that it doesn't interfere with your work. It's out of the problem. Okay, here we go again. So here we're going to plug in and see if we are correct. 4 times 16 minus 57 equals 7. Again, if you want to do some side work and say, I need to know what 16 times 4 is, I find out that that's 64. 64 minus 57 is indeed 7. So that checks out. So our answer is indeed 16. Hopefully you've learned a little bit more about solving two-step equations.